Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today I have a knife that has been reviewed a lot. This is the Spyderco Tenacious. Now mine is in black, but we're just going to treat it as if it's all Tenaciouses are the same, because they kind of are. And I want to address in this video a few different things. One, you know, unless you're living under a rock and you've never seen any mention of any kind of knife video, you'll know that this is a really popular knife. I would say possibly, I'm guessing a little bit, and companies are not very forthright with this stuff, but I'm going to guess that this is probably Spyderco's most popular blade. There are a number of others that are going to be very popular, but I hate to say it, but price point alone almost dictates that this will be one of their highest sellers. And I think there's a good reason for that. Also, I think there's a good reason for why this is so popular as a blade on that gets super good reviews consistently. But I'm going to say this. I think there's a little bit of hype around this knife, okay? It's a great blade, don't get me wrong, but is it the single greatest value folder that's ever been created? Is it, you know, does it beat out every other, you know, $30 to $40 knife that's on the market? By the way, because of the popularity of this blade, now you're pretty much over $40 consistently for if you want to buy one. But we'll, you know, let's. So even on that, I need to make the comment that this doesn't almost fit the value folder category anymore because of supply and demand. You know, very popular product tends to climb in price a little bit, and certainly this has. In the US, you know, you're probably looking at about 45 bucks a lot of places. In Canada, you know, online, you're looking at around $55. And don't ever, by the way, do this, but if you go to Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop to buy a knife, wow, 76 bucks. That's insane, right? Those places are not known for their value pricing anyway, but just in case you're ever watching this and you go, hey, I'm going to go check that out at Bass Pro, go ahead and look at it there, but don't buy it there. You know, just overpriced, okay? Anyway, does this knife live up to the hype? Is it as good as the reviewers say it is? Is it as valuable as the reviewers say it is? That is, does it maximize that value equation as well as they talk about? That's going to be the focus of this video. And does it beat all other knives in the comparable price range? We'll ask that question as well. So why don't you join me? If you're just checking this video out to see, do I really want to buy a Tenacious? You know, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is a great knife. There's no question about it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about whether or not it's as great as some people say it is, okay? So let's talk about size and weight. I believe that is one of the reasons this is such a popular knife. It's a pretty standard size and has pretty good dimensions as an EDC blade. Overall, it's like 7 3/4 inches. The blade is 3 3/8 inches, 3.5. So it gets, if you're in a place where it says it has to be under 3.5 inches, it fits that category. The handle is 4.5 inches, which means unless you have pretty big hands, it's going to be fairly comfortable. Notice my hand does, if I hold it in this sort of a saber grip, my hand does come over the end a little bit, but not too much. So that 4.5 inches works out pretty well there. The weight is only 4.1 ounces, so again, pretty good dimension that way. Nice full flat grind. Now it is a little thicker than some blades. You know, this dimension is fairly big, you know, about 1.25 inches or so, but that's pretty typical of Spyderco's because they've got that spider hole that has to be accounted for. And here's one other thing that I want to say about this knife. Well, we're still kind of, I know we've got into size and weight, and so I want to point this out. People who start to get into knives, they start looking at Spyderco and they realize it's a great company, and there's things that they start to love about Spyderco: the full flat grind, the spider hole, the thumb ramp, the leaf-shaped blade, the G10, all of the things, you know, and the little spider on the pocket clip. And the Tenacious, one of the reasons I think it's so popular is because the Tenacious gives you all that cool Spyderco stuff, and it does it at a very reasonable price. Now, fairly reasonable price, okay? More so a few years ago than today, but still a fairly reasonable price. Okay, and I think that's one of the reasons this is so popular. It gives you all the Spyderco coolness at a price that most people can afford, who maybe would love to have a paramilitary 2 or a military or a Mannix or something else, but those are just a little high for this point in their collection. Or maybe a person's just looking for an EDC blade, they'd like a good one and they really like a Spyderco. Again, you know, the Tenacious fits a lot of, there's a lot of check marks in boxes when you think about the Tenacious: size and weight, spider hole, blade shape, G10, all kinds of things, you know, movable pocket clip, forward positionable. There's lots of things that this checks off that make it a good knife, but maybe in people's minds it gets built up a little more than it necessarily deserves. And I don't think it's a bad knife at all. I really like it. I've used it a lot. I carry it a lot. And after this video, by the way, this is always a test, and I'm predicting a little bit here, but I can tell you, I'm sure that after I make this video and I'm done with my testing phase, I'll still carry this knife and I'll still use it a lot, okay? So let's go back and do some comparisons. I've seen, there's a recent video by Kurtz, I believe, where this knife, these two knives are compared. I could be wrong, maybe it's Super Saiyan. Anyway, if you start looking at Tenacious videos, you'll probably find it. The Kershaw Cryo 2 compared to the Spyderco Tenacious. So there they are together. And I will agree with that other video that's been made. I think the Tenacious is the better of these two blades. It's got better ergonomics, it's better size and weight wise, better blade shape. Not that I don't like the Cryo, I definitely just like the Tenacious more. On the other hand, here's another comparable blade, and it's probably one you've looked at if you're looking at a medium-sized EDC knife, the Cold Steel American Lawman. Now these two are very close in size. The Lawman is only maybe 1/4 of an inch longer. If you put them blade to blade, the blades are literally within a 1/16 of an inch of one another. They're very, very close to the same size. The Spyderco blade is a little longer, and it does have more cutting edge. However, the Lawman, you're not going to beat it for the strength of the lock, you're not going to beat it for the grippiness of the G10, and you're not going to beat it for ergonomics with the Tenacious. And so if you're, especially in the US where these are very close in price, I hate to say this, but I think the American Lawman is the better knife for your dollar. It's tougher. I like the blade steel better. I know some people would argue with me on that, but I do think AUS-8 is better than ACR13 MOV. Here's, I think, a very, very competitive option, and if you're seriously thinking about the Tenacious, you may want to look at this. Now in Canada, the disparity between these two on price is significantly more. You know, this is probably a $30 more investment, okay? So that's considerable for a lot of people, unless you can find this, you know, on a trip to the US or on a really good sale. I got mine for a great price. It was a really good Amazon warehouse sale. But I think this is a very competitive knife, especially in the US where the price difference is not that big between those two. Now, let's move on. We've talked about size and weight, and it's time to talk about this blade. It is a great blade. Spyderco has those leaf-shaped blades, which are really just drop point. I know Spyderco likes to talk about leaf shape, but you know, let's be honest, it's just a drop point blade, right? A nice blade, very functional blade. Okay, so we have here ACR13 MOV blade steel. It is 3 3/8 inches. Now it's 3.5 inches of cutting length, and you can see how the edge comes down almost past the what would be called the ricasso right here, but past the top of the handle there. And so you're getting a ton of cutting edge. Great for detailed work. You don't need a finger choil on this knife because look where your finger is. It's that close to the cutting edge already. So you can really choke up and get some fine work done with that, with the way this blade is situated. It is a full flat grind, and it's a fairly thin full flat grind, which means it's going to slice really, really well. Go ahead and cut up a tomato with it, or some cardboard, or any other kind of vegetable, or anything that you're going to notice resistance, and you're going to notice this knife excels at that. tons of belly, which makes it a great slicer. And you've got enough size and length on this blade that you're not going to be limited, okay? It's not going to fall into any of the weak points that certain small knives fall into. It's definitely solidly in the medium EDC category. All right, very, very good jimping. That's one of the things. A lot of blades have jimping on the back of the blade here, somewhere in this area. You know, between my fingers there, you'll find some jimping. This jimping is very functional. Of course, there's a spider hole, and it is a very useful opening mechanism. You know, you can definitely spider flick this. You can do all the little Spyderco stuff that you see people do. It's going to work very well for you. One of the things that I like about it is the very good control that you get over a knife. The spider hole works. You're not just pushing it one direction like you would with a thumb stud. When your thumb is there, or any finger is there, you've got total control of what that blade is doing, which is really, really nice. Okay, so that is a really, really good option for a really, really nice deployment method, and a lot of people really prefer a Spidey hole. And of course, a lot of companies have borrowed that because of that preference. Now, one of the things I want to add at this point, we're kind of moving into deployment, and we can back off a little bit for that since we're not going to do quite such a close examination there. Talk about deployment on this blade. It's very, very good. Nice and smooth. You know, you can definitely do a nice Spidey flick there, Spidey drop, whatever. You know, Spyderco's have really done a good job on that. And here's something I want to say about this knife. And this is where it does excel, okay? When you get this knife in hand, it feels like quality, okay? It just does. I've never had a Spyderco that doesn't feel that way. And I think I said that in my video about why I like Spyderco. Even the bird knife. You get those things in hand and you start using them, and you know somebody's paying pretty close attention to fit and finish, to quality control. The tolerances must be pretty good because these knives are so smooth, they're so well put together. You know, when the lock clicks into place, when you start fiddling with the blade and feeling how it feels when you're using it, there's no question that this is a quality knife. And I've got to say, Spyderco does really well in this category. I've never seen them not do well. I know there are probably some videos out there that you could find where that's not the case. And maybe there's one detraction from that. And I'm taking about just the feel in hand. But let's do one negative here since we're talking about this. If you go to make adjustments, you may find that the hardware is a little soft. That was a pretty common complaint when the Tenacious first came out, and although the story is that Spyderco did upgrade the hardware, I will say when I went to move the pocket clip, one of the screws did want to strip on me, and I had to go and get a pair of pliers to finish moving the pocket clip on this knife. I was still able to use the screw, I was still able to get it to catch a little bit, but it did want to strip on me, and that is not cool. I really, really don't like that, especially from a company that tries to make quality an issue, and I think they do, generally speaking. That's just what I've been saying. Okay, so deployment is via thumb hole. It's very, very smooth. It is on bronze phosphor bushings or washers, which is really awesome. It is a liner lock, and that liner lock is nice and thick, nice and solid, very, very strong lockup, and very positive lockup. This is one of the things I really like. When you flick that knife open, you can hear that lock click into place, and that is pretty cool, right? So that's a definite win on deployment there. Now, I will say, when I first got this knife, it was a little rough. It probably sat in a factory or in a warehouse or on a shelf, maybe a little longer than was good for it, but a little oil, you know, has it working smooth as silk. Okay, and that can be true of any knife. I've gotten knives before where you could barely deploy them. They were so kind of gummed up with old oil and probably had sat in a warehouse for 5 years, right? So that can happen to any knife. Handle is G10. It has stainless steel liners, and they are milled out. And I've got to say, again, this is one of the things I love about this. When you pay that kind of attention to detail on a budget knife. And even though I said the price is higher than it was a few years ago, still I think, you know, this is a reasonably budget-friendly knife, and it's nice to see those milled out liners and saving some weight. They're still quite thick. The liners are thicker than a lot of other liner lock knives that I own and that I'm familiar with, and so I like that. I know sometimes you use thinner liners to save weight. I would rather see you save weight somewhere else, because I do believe that that makes a difference in terms of lock strength. So you've got a fairly thick lock here. It's as thick as any of the other good heavy locks, liner locks that I have. I have no issue with this at all in terms of, you know, I'm not worried about the strength of the lockup in any way. It is a very comfortable handle. Now I will say, you're depending an awful lot on that thumb ramp to keep that blade in where it needs to be. Okay, the G10 is grippy, but it's not as grippy as, you know, a paramilitary or a military. It's not as grippy as a cold steel. It's good, it's fine, but you know, it's a little smoother than a lot of the G10 that you may have on other blades. Okay, it's definitely a comfortable handle, although a little bit small. Not extremely so, but notice here that my hand does kind of come over the back a little bit. It's not the end of the world. I've still done lots of cutting with this. I've never had an issue with it. I've never been like, oh, that's so uncomfortable, I have to stop. It's a good handle. It's well put together. It's just maybe a little bit small, and if you're a person with really big hands, you may notice maybe you should step up to the resilience. And I do plan to add resilience to my collection somewhere along the line, so you can expect a video someday all about that one. It is torque spit construction, open pillar, which is nice for cleaning the knife and getting all the gunk out of there. One of the neat things about this knife is the holes that are drilled for the pocket clip, if you're going to carry it tip down. You can actually see the washers through there, see the outside washer anyway. There are 4 in here, but you could put a drop of oil down there, and you know you're able to get some oil then down by the pivot that way. I don't recommend that's the best way to do it. You're probably better to work in this way, or better yet, take the knife apart, although Spyderco doesn't recommend that. You know, taking the knife apart does give you the best access to clean and lubricate the pivot area. There is a lanyard hole here, and it does have a metal sleeve in it, which is really nice. It's not a big lanyard hole. You probably wouldn't fit. You could, I don't know, you could probably get a gutted 550 cord through there if you wanted to. I don't put lanyards on my knives. I've tried. I just am not into it. At least on no knife that I own now. Every new knife I get, I kind of look at it and think maybe a lanyard would be all right, but overall, I'm not crazy about it. Okay, now, overall impression on this knife, it's a good knife. It's a great knife for EDC. The size, the weight, the blade shape, the handle shape, the ergonomics, the thumb ramp, everything comes together to make this a very good everyday carry knife. You know, it does excel in that category. I wouldn't call it hard use. I wouldn't call it especially tactical. I wouldn't call it a gentleman's knife. Just, this is a good all-around EDC blade. And if that's what you need, if you're looking for just that one knife that you can carry with you all the time, that's going to be pretty reliable, you know, this is not going to let you down, I don't think. If we had a time to have a long conversation about it, maybe I could recommend to check out some other blades, because it's not the end-all and be-all that sometimes it's made out to be, but it's definitely a good knife, okay? I enjoy it. I definitely like it. I like owning it. I like carrying it. I like using it. And probably you will too. That's my take on the Spyderco Tenacious. Let's give you one last quick look at that blade before we cut the video off. So there you go. There's that nice leaf-shaped Spyderco blade. There's your Spidey symbol on it. Here's that cool G10 handle with the pocket clip, liner lock. There you go. So that is the Spyderco Tenacious. Of course, this one is in black. Pretty nice blade. I think you'll like it. I kind of do. There you go, YouTube. We'll talk to you later.